The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Optavia team.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the National Habits of Health call with Optavia. We're excited that you're here. You're in for a special treat tonight. This is our weekly support call for all of our clients and coaches and health professionals, as well as distinguished guests. So if you're a guest tonight, maybe you were invited from a friend, or maybe you saw something on social media, and that's how you landed here tonight. We're excited that you're here. What you're going to hear in the next 30 minutes is going to be transformational. What you're going to see and hear on the screen is going to be a behavioral specialist that's going to be talking through some specific tactics and strategies on how you can create a healthier emotional well-being. He's going to show you some very simple strategies on how you can use a very common tactic in our health coaching program called Stop, Challenge, and Choose. Now, some of the people that are on this webinar are following a very specific nutrition plan, and it's important that if you hear something during this webinar that you want to add to your plan or your program, it's good to make sure you contact your health coach or the person that referred you so that they can make sure that you are all on the same page and that it's a good fit for what program you're particularly following. So without any further ado, I can't wait to introduce you to our rock star hero. This is our secret weapon. His name is Nick Fry, and Nick is an amazing individual that's a key component of what we call our virtual community and virtual clinic. Nick has got an amazing experience in being a professional, and he has helped so many different people to be able to overcome the barriers and the challenges that come with living a healthy lifestyle. He's a licensed clinical professional counselor. He's a certified health education specialist. He's got his master's in counseling psychology and a master's in health promotion. So he's got amazing background of training, but he's also got the real life nuts and bolts, hands-on experience of helping our coaches and our clients to overcome the challenges that stand in their way. And tonight he's going to get a chance to share with you some great tactics. So Nick, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I am so excited to be here tonight. I can't wait to share this information with everybody. So as David was talking about, we're going to be focusing tonight on some very specific skills and strategies that you can utilize to really help improve your emotional health. And we're calling this one tonight, Retrain Your Crazy Brain, right? So we're going to be talking about different strategies to help with our thinking, to help with our emotions, how we get through what I'm going to be calling breaking points, those stressful, negative emotion type moments. We're going to be talking about those tonight. So let's just go ahead and get started. Let's get right into it. So, you know, people often believe that the feelings that they experience are determined by external events, situations, the behavior of others. We may even hear ourselves say like, oh, that traffic really stressed me out, or my spouse made me really angry. And what is the assumption underlying these statements? Well, it's that someone or something other than ourselves was directly determining the feelings we experience. However, if we stop and analyze the process that links that situation to the emotional response, we'll find that there's actually a step in between. And what really makes us feel and respond the way that we do is often not the situation or the actions of another person, but how we perceive that situation or that person's actions. It's our thoughts and our beliefs about an event that significantly influence our emotions and our actions. So here's an example. Let's say you're at a party and the host introduces you to a guy named Mike. And as you're talking to Mike, you notice that he's not looking you directly in the eye. He's kind of looking around the room and not really paying much attention to you. Now, if you were to think to yourself, boy, this guy is so rude, he won't even look at me. What's going on here? You might feel angry. Well, what if you thought, wow, Mike must think I'm the most boring person on the planet. He doesn't even want to look at me. He doesn't want to talk to me. Nobody wants to talk to me. You might feel sad. What if you were to think, well, Mike's actually probably waiting for a friend. Maybe he's anxious. Maybe the friend got lost and hasn't found their way to the party yet. Then you might feel compassionate towards Mike. So these different emotions result from the three different thoughts you could have about the same exact situation. Now, we're often not aware of our thoughts, and because they're so automatic, right? They happen quickly, but they're there and they affect the way that we feel. So just as we're not always conscious of the way we might walk or drive our car, we're often not aware of our thinking. Some of our thinking is so habitual that it's completely automatic, right? Just like driving. Just like have you ever had the experience where you're driving somewhere and then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just pulling right into my driveway. Like you were just so habitual and so automatic about it. Our thoughts can be the same way. Our brains are always turning over new thoughts, always turning over ideas. However, they're not always conscious. We're not always aware of them, and they happen relatively quickly. And unless we slow down and identify them, we might just completely miss them, but they play an important role in our emotional well-being. That's because these automatic thoughts often reflect worries or concerns that we have. They really could be about anything at all, but it's the negative automatic thoughts that really cause us emotional distress. Therefore, if we want to improve how we feel, we need to begin by becoming more aware of what we're thinking in order to change our thoughts. So, whereas some people kind of get confused, is actually it's very difficult to distinguish what our thoughts are and what our feelings are. It can be very easy to confuse those two things, right? So you might hear somebody say, I feel like my spouse, they didn't appreciate that gift that I gave. Well, that's actually a thought. The thought is my spouse didn't appreciate the gift, but the feeling is hurt. Feelings are always one word, feel hurt. So that's just kind of an easy way to distinguish between our thoughts and our feelings. And remember, it's our thoughts that create those negative feelings. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be talking about something called breaking points, right? So studies have shown that the ability to deal with stress and negative emotions is a significant predictor of overall health. That's right. Your ability to deal with stress and negative emotions means that you're better at making healthy choices. And these moments of stress and negative emotion are called breaking points. And they're called that for good reason, because these are those moments when we feel so overwhelmed that like our willpower breaks down or our resolve completely breaks. Who's had that experience before, right? Where you just feel so completely overwhelmed by stress or negative emotions that it's, forget it. And we make an unhealthy choice, or we eat too much, or we skip the gym, something like that. So if we can deal with these breaking points more effectively, we can improve how we feel. And we do that by becoming more aware of our thoughts and changing those. So to start influencing how you feel, you got to learn how to become aware of your thoughts and capture those unhelpful thoughts and beliefs, right? So with the ultimate goal of changing them, of course. So in order to do that, we're going to do something called an ABC analysis, right? And so here's how it works. There's the A, the activating event. This is the situation, the thing that happened. Then there's the B, the belief. That's kind of the filter or the lens that we view the event through. Then there's the consequence, C, and that's the emotional result and the action that comes afterwards, right? So it goes activating event, belief, consequence. And in order to do this, we're going to go through an example together about how we conduct an ABC analysis, right? So what you first do is you think about the activating event, right? You think about, and let's say for the purposes of being timely, let's say you went to your in-laws for Thanksgiving, as I did, and let's say you weren't able to stick to your program and you ate way too much at dinner. Okay, that's the activating event. B, the belief that that event is filtered through might be something like, ugh, I'm such a failure. I can't even make it through one measly dinner without overeating, without messing up. I'll never be able to do this. Then that belief leads to the consequence of feeling guilty, shame, upset with yourself. Remember, feelings are one word: guilt, shame, upset. And then you go completely off program, off the rails for the next few days. It might look something like this, right? Eat too much, I'm a failure, guilt, shame, fall completely off plan. And guess what? When you feel guilty and you feel shamed and you fall off plan, you're eating too much again, right? So it gets to become this vicious cycle. And so we can begin to break down our behaviors in this way and really identify what our thoughts are, what our beliefs are that are causing these negative emotions, that are causing these negative consequences. And then we can change them. With what David was talking about at the beginning, stop, challenge, choose. So the key to changing how we feel and behave is found in challenging and changing our unhelpful thoughts. This begins with you taking a good look, a good hard look, and asking questions that challenge your thoughts, beliefs, expectations, ultimately challenging whether they are true or not, whether they help you or hinder you. And you can utilize stop, challenge, choose to do this. So how do you do that? Well, first, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, a very overwhelming, distressing emotion, you stop, take a deep breath, and center yourself. This kind of puts everything on pause, right? It gives you an opportunity to do something else. So stop, take a deep breath, and center yourself. Next, you challenge your thoughts. You challenge these beliefs by asking some very specific questions. Here's a couple that you can ask yourself. Am I basing this thought on facts or feelings? Is this belief black or white when reality is more complicated or more in the gray? Am I making assumptions? Could my belief be an exaggeration of what's true? Am I thinking this way out of habit, or is this the actual fact of the situation? This one's my favorite. Is my thought the likely scenario, or is it the worst case scenario, right? We often go to that worst case scenario instead of thinking about the likely scenario. And finally, is it helpful for me to think this way? Once you've challenged these thoughts, it's going to become pretty clear very quickly that these thoughts aren't exactly true, and they sure as heck are helpful. So then we can choose a new, balanced, and helpful belief. The important thing here is that you choose a new belief, a new thought that's more balanced. That word balanced is very important, right? You want to include both the good and the bad, the strengths and the weaknesses. So using our example again, you ate too much at dinner. You're thinking to yourself, I'm a failure. You want to just go off the rails. So then you stop, challenge your thoughts, and you choose a new balanced one. It might sound like this. Sure, I messed up. I'm not happy about that. At the same time, I've been doing pretty good. And I know I can get back on track. This isn't the end of the world. So you can see how that's a balanced thought as opposed to a completely unbalanced, overly positive thought like, you know what? From here on out, I'm going to be 100% perfect. I'm not going to make this mistake ever again. Well, chances are you'll make another mistake. If you're human like I am, it's not just robots out there, we'll probably make another mistake. So we need to have a balanced, helpful belief. So what's this process look like? What does this change process look like? Well, it looks something like this, right? The A, activating event, you eat too much at dinner. B, the belief, I'm a failure. Now, the consequence of that thought is shame, guilt, upset, going completely off the rails. But if you stop, challenge, and choose, look what it does. It lessens the emotional reaction. They're less extreme, they're less distressing, so you can deal with that breaking point and get right back on track instead of just completely losing it and going off the rails, right? So this is what it looks like. So David, I think that we talked about that this would be a really good time for to hear from everybody in the chat box there. Have you ever experienced this before? Have you ever used Stop, Challenge, Choose? How do you create a new habit of a balanced and helpful thought? Go ahead and put some of those things in the chat box. I see, yep, this week from Daphne. Yep, used it yesterday. Exact example you used. Is that right? Yeah, we all tend to overeat at Thanksgiving, right? Yes, yes, yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, it's an intentional way to go about our thinking, isn't it? Because we were talking about before, we have all these automatic thoughts. They come in, I'm a failure, I messed up. But this is an intentional way to be able to do this, right? It's an intentional way where we focus in on creating new habits of healthy thinking, right? Well, let's keep this train rolling. Let's keep this train rolling because I got a few more slides to go here. All right, so well, what is the end result of all this? What's the end result, right? Well, once you've chosen this new, balanced, more helpful belief, ask yourself, how do I feel now, right? So we've done the stop, the challenge, the choose. We've got this new, balanced, helpful thought and belief. Is your emotion less intense than it was before? Is it less extreme? Is it less distressing? It may not go away completely. That's okay. But did it lessen? Because when it lessens, we feel less overwhelmed, and then we can make a better decision. And really challenging your beliefs, choosing new, balanced, helpful beliefs is the process of change. But the final step is where you really make the change, right? And this will happen through practice, practice, practice. You'll probably find the process becomes easier after some practice, right? So you got to keep it up. Keep going, keep doing it, keep doing the stop, challenge, choose. Keep choosing that new, helpful, more balanced belief. I see somebody said it works in dealing with difficult people too. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. When we have difficult people in our lives, not just events or situations, but difficult people as well. So as I was talking about, practice, practice, practice. You've got to follow through on this because here's what many people find. They understand that the new helpful thought or belief in their minds, they understand it, but they find it difficult to feel it or believe it. They understand that it's balanced, that it's helpful, but at the same time, they're not really convinced. Yeah. Everybody makes mistakes, but this was a huge one and I'll never recover. Yeah. They're not convinced, right? Well, what's going on here is the balanced belief is newly activated. It's a new thing, and it's yet to be integrated into your personal belief system. Because think about thoughts as habits. You've probably been thinking these unhelpful thoughts, these negative thoughts for a very long time. They're habit. They're a part of your belief system. It'll take a while to begin to change that. It'll take a while because you have to uproot the old habits and establish a new pattern of balanced and helpful thinking. So just like you change your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your exercise habits, you got to change your thought habits. And that happens through practice until it becomes the new automatic thought. And look at that, we come all the way full circle. That's how I like to do it. That's how I like to do it. So we've got one more thing here that I want to share with you all. And it's just a very simple thing to keep in mind as you're learning new habitual ways to think, new helpful, new balanced, new ways of thinking. Think about when you were a kid and you were learning to tie your shoes. Remember when you learned to tie your shoes. Think back to that. You kept practicing until it's not even conscious anymore, the way that you break. You're not, making rabbit ears and having them go around the trunk. That's how I learned. I don't know if anybody else did. But you're not even thinking about it anymore. The laces just come together and you tie the bow. Learning to retrain your crazy brain goes through the exact same process. Eventually, it'll become automatic if you keep at it, if you keep at it. So one last thing I want to leave you with, I like to do this at the end of my presentations. As always, work with your Optavia coach, connect with the Optavia community like you're doing right now, utilize your Optavia resources, and always move towards lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. All right, everybody, that's my presentation for tonight. I'm going to be turning it back over to David.
Hey, before we let you go, Nick, we want to just throw a couple of questions out at you because we think that this is a powerful opportunity to share this amazing information that you've shared with us. I've come to learn after 10 years of doing this and losing 100 pounds that my beliefs are filled with oftentimes lies. It's right in the middle of the word beliefs, and the lies that I tell myself, like, well, one chip won't hurt, right? Or something won't hurt me. And then what happens is that I end up realizing the truth, and the truth is the food is a little addictive and it's a little hard to stop. And so what would you say to the person that's watching this video live or recorded that maybe they ever have a hard time really getting past their limiting beliefs or believing that they can actually create the habits and sustain them when they keep failing or they keep falling short? Anything you could share?
Absolutely. That's a really great question, David. So oftentimes we talk about in Optavia finding your why, right? And David and I actually did a really great presentation on that. So go to YouTube and check that one out because it's really, really great. Finding your why is an important part of the motivation of keeping going. But there's another part that people don't talk about, and that's finding your how. Now, finding your how is all about your confidence, your self-efficacy, believing in yourself that you can actually do this. And there's one very, very important thing that you can do in order to find your how. You gotta get involved in the community. You gotta come be right here on these Habits of Health calls. You gotta talk to people that have been through the same struggles and the same challenges that you have and have been successful. You gotta open up Dr. A's Habits of Health. Go to those resources. You got to make it to convention. You got to make sure that you are in the pipeline and connected with everybody, because here's the thing that people don't know about confidence. It is born out of a communal experience. Now, there's research on this. Confidence is born out of a communal experience. It's about seeing other people successful and saying to yourself, hey, I can do that. They did it, I can do it, right? So that person that's really struggling, like you were describing, David, they need to get locked in, connected, and really integrated into the whole resources and community that Optavia offers.
That's great. So just to recap, and if everybody remembers, there was an A and a B and a C inside of Nick's presentation. Do you remember what the ABC stood for? Because that's going to be an awakening experience that will help you to stop and to realize that there is something that's taking place. So if you remember what the A and the B and the C stood for, put it in the chat message and educate all those people that weren't taking notes. And we would love to see. And we'll give everybody just a moment to see what's inside the chat, because there's some people that have come to learn that if they want to be healthy, they need to study health. You see, this is not a diet or a detox or a fitness program. What Optavia is an optimal well-being program, which requires you, if you want to create lifelong transformation, to learn and to study and to take notes and to repeat this information. That's why Nick was just saying, getting on these calls on a weekly basis. And I put the link to the podcasts and the YouTube channel inside of the chat message. And if you are watching a recording of this, you can go to YouTube and search for Optavia and watch the replays of these particular webinars. But this is the kind of stuff that builds truth into your beliefs. And when the truth dispels those limiting beliefs or the lies that you've been telling yourself, the truth will set you free. And so the recap, Nick, tell us one more time the ABCs of the things that we need to be aware of before we use the stop, challenge, and choose principle.
You got it. You got it. So A, activating event. That's the situation that you come up against, the person that you deal with. It's the thing that gets it started. What is happening in your life? Did you fall off program and overeat? Did you skip the gym? Did you get really angry with somebody and you lost your temper and you didn't mean to? That's the activating event. B is belief, and that is the lens or the filter that we view the event through. That's like how we perceive the event, whether it's good or bad or horrible or catastrophe or if it's wonderful. It's the filter based off of our own beliefs. Then C is the consequence, and that's the emotional consequence that really creates the energy for the action or behavioral consequence. So the example we gave is activating event, ate too much at dinner. Belief, I'm a failure. Consequence, feelings of guilt, shame, and upset, which leads you completely off track for a number of days. And so then we can stop that process, we can arrest it and change it with stop, challenge, choose.
So good, Nick. Thanks so much for joining us. And so to recap, the major components of the Optavia system, just to awaken you to all the resources you have available, is number one, your coaching support team. Now, you don't just have a coach, that coach has a coach, and that coach has a coach. And so you've got a great support coaching team that you can reach out to and share your takeaways with this particular webinar. And you could even ask them to be talking to you about the idea of stop, challenge, and choose and how you could use that this particular week or in the next 30 days. And you could set some SMART goals, some specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals to start practicing and perfecting the use of stop, challenge, and choose, which is a lifelong transformational principle. The second component is the Habits of Health system, the book and the workbook, which workbook kind of has a negative connotation, but what that book is a life book. It actually awakens you to the idea of the life that you can create. And if you work alongside of your coach and you set some goals to complete the workbook and the book, you'll become a master of the habits of health. And wouldn't you want to be a master of the habits of health to live a healthy life? Don't get caught up with the idea of trying to read it all at once. Take it one bite at a time. And then the third component is the virtual community and clinic. This experience you just had is just one element of the virtual community and clinic. We have experts like Nick Fry that come and are available to us. And so make sure you reach out to your coach and ask about all the cool community events and webinars and virtual resources that you can plug into, the lean and green recipes. All of those things are great resources for you. The fourth component is the fuelings in our amazing product line with Optavia products. And it's a great time to explore new products, especially over the holidays when maybe you're looking for a little different flavor, a little different kick. So make sure that you talk to your coach about that. And then the fifth component is an optional component, and that is to explore the health coach opportunity. And if you have not explored it because maybe you've had a negative belief of what it was, or maybe you had some lies that you've been telling yourself about what coaching was and what it wasn't, we would encourage you to watch an exploratory webinar on what health coaching is all about. Talk to your coach to learn more, and they'll get you more details. But thank you so much for joining us for the Habits of Health webinar.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Optavia team.